everybody. Welcome back to another episode of People Talking from a Social Distance. I have a wonderful guest today. When I started this, there's like a handful of names, and I was like, if I can get any of these people to show up, I'll be totally stoked. And one of them did. So I'm super excited today to be talking to a truly awesome colleague and an advocate for everyone in this building. One of my favorite people in the building. We've got Pam Olson.
Well, thank you. My gosh, that was, I don't know. I think we need to end this interview right now on a high note.
It stands out. I mean, for just in general, I'm super stoked. I hope this doesn't ruin it. In a lot of ways, you remind me of my mother because you both do no harm but take no guff, and like that's like the archetype that I hope to achieve at one point in my life. So.
Well, there you go. Your future wife will do no harm and take no guff. So you keep that in mind. Yeah. No, that's a good compliment. I'll take that. That reminds me of my mom too.
Right on. So the first place I always like to go, and I said something similar when I was talking with Scott, that it just seems like so many people in your department like live and breathe science teacher, which is awesome. It's totally cool. But if you were to apply a label outside of your profession to yourself, what would it be and why?
Well, and I think that the label that I would apply to myself actually is that of a free thinker. I am a free thinker, and in every sense of the word. So, you know, I'm a skeptic, which is not to be confused with being cynical. They are not the same thing. And I'm most definitely a feminist, and I am an atheist. And so I just fit all the free thinking kind of adjectives that go along with that word. And I think that my evolution into being a free thinker actually came about through science. So, you know, I'm a science teacher, but science also has really formed my worldview. So it's not just a content that I teach.
Nice. Yeah, I think I love that term, free thinker. And for anyone who was wondering, Pam is skeptical. I'm cynical. There's the difference. Right? Those are the two. Right? Literature, it's all cynicism. But I love that, and I love the idea of like the thing that you teach being sort of part and parcel of how you sort of view the whole entire world.
Yeah,
I really dig that.
Yeah. I don't know. Can you see the shirt that I'm wearing today? So my shirt says, asserted without evidence, dismissed without evidence. And that describes me. So in terms of how I approach science and again, being a free thinker, how I approach the world, claim evidence and reasoning. And if you don't have evidence to back up your stance, then you're just wasting your time with me.
Right on. That reminds me of a book I read earlier in the year because I go all in on the soft sciences. It's a One-Dimensional Man by Herbert Marcuse, and his whole thing is the dominant mode of thought in any society is made to shut down the dialectic and the free exchange of ideas. So I think science is one of those places where it's like, no, there is still open dialectical thought going on, and that's it's always cool to be a part of whenever possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just, you know, I know you're going to be asking me about recommendations or books or whatever, and you know, I think one of the things too, and free thinkers love to read. I mean, I just like to read. They love to read because the whole goal is to learn as much as you can about things in order to form you know, opinions that actually have evidence, right, to back up your stance, so your claim or your assertion. And so, you know, I'd love to read books by free thinkers. And so one of my favorite books actually is a compilation of female free thinkers, and it's called Women Without Superstition, No Gods, No Masters. And, you know, just whatever, you're feeling kind of in a funky mood or whatever, you just open this compilation up and you pick out, you know, a lecture, some writings by, you know, whoever, okay, just all kinds of different free thinking women, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and you just read what these, you know, awesome women, these historical feminists and skeptics, what they thought. And I don't know, it just really resonates with me. So Yeah. Greg, are you a free thinker? You have you and I have had some conversations. I kind of feel like you lean that way.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm someone who I think almost maybe is too free with their thinking. Like it's hard for me to pin something down. I'll be like, I thought that like last year, but now I'm not quite so sure about that anymore. So,
but that's the beautiful thing about it is that, you know, when you know better, you do better. So as you become more informed about things, right, your feelings and opinions and beliefs about things change based on new data. And so, you know, it's just like anything in science. You can have, you know, the longest living theory in the history of humans was that Earth was the center of the universe. And, you know, when new data comes along, right, and that happened over a period of time, but eventually you have to think a new way because the data shows you that what you previously thought was wrong, is incorrect. So you then form a new stance, a new assertion, a new claim on things.
There's a really cool book that I gave to a student and I never got it back, and I don't mind anymore. Stolen books are a godsend, right? Like someone kept it, okay, I must have done something right. But it was Chuck Klosterman, and that was kind of his whole premise of the book. It was, but what if we're wrong? And he said, you look on a long enough scale, we're always wrong. So the stuff we're so certain of now, there's no way we're going to be certain of that 50, 100, even 25 years later.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Dig it.
Yeah. That reminds me that, you know, we're living in a really cool time right now, in that, you know, getting back to that theory of science that was so long-lived. It used to be, you know, 1,000 years ago, that we couldn't really see beyond the observable universe, right? So, you know, we were the center of the universe. Now we have all of these awesome technological tools, and we can actually see out beyond what we can observe. And we recognize that we are not the center of the universe. And in fact, most likely, we're not even the only beings out there, right? But there will come a time in the future, if humans don't drive themselves to extinction, that, you know, our technology, as the universe then expands, our technology will be such that it can actually see beyond our little observable universe. And so we'll go back to believing that we actually are the center of the universe again. So, you know, right now we're in this great time, right, where we can learn all this information. And again, it changes our worldview, right, how we think about our place here. And, you know, in the future, then it may all change when, you know, that data is gone. So, yeah.
Well, and it was a couple weeks ago, maybe even further back. I know I was talking with one of the students about it. They got the math back and they figured out that maybe the whole way we thought of dark matter isn't correct either, right? So it's another one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, fundamental laws of the universe are changing.
Yes.
No big deal. That's like page 3.
Yes. But again, that's the beautiful thing about science, because, you know, when you have data and you realize, you know, the whole goal of science is to prove things false. And so as long as you can't prove something false, it works as the best explanation for what you have. But then when you have new data that proves it false, then you got to change, right, what the rules are, how things work. And so to me, that's just one of the things I love about science. And again, how, you know, you can just really incorporate that into your own worldview. So, you know, your place here. So.
Right on. Yeah. Well, I think that sort of brings us into, and maybe we can continue that, sort of the second question. And I always tell people I love being a teacher of English because they pay me to teach Shakespeare, right? Mm-hmm. Like I get to do the stuff I love to do. It helps me do the things I already would be doing on my own. But is there a way that you can maybe talk about how what you do has sort of helped to shape or foster or sort of embolden some of your passions? Oh,
absolutely. So when I was in school, so I kind of had a roundabout way to teaching, and not the typical way. I like the fact that you interviewed, you know, Scott Horlock, and he was telling you how he did this. He had this kind of whole life going on right before he really felt like teaching was where he belonged. So the same thing was, you know, with me. So I was in school way back in the 80s, in college. I left college. I was having too much fun. And so I left college and I came home and I ended up getting married and starting a family. And after my kids then, my oldest child was in school, I started becoming much more involved with his school and going there. I was president of the PTO. That probably wouldn't surprise anybody. And working at the school all the time. And I just really started to feel like this is something that I could do. Like I felt that being with the kids, I just believe that kids can't have too many adults who care about them and want their success and want to have them be happy. And I thought that was something I could do. So I decided that I was going to go back to school. So this was in 1991. I decided to go back to school. So it actually took me a while because I was going to school part-time, still, obviously, I had kids at home, all this. And I ended up graduating in 2000 from NIU, actually, with a bachelor's degree in biology. And by the way, I've never taught a day of biology in my life, which is just fine for me because I really am not down with the squishy science. So anyway, when I was at NIU, the teacher coordinator said, "Hey, I want you to take some different kinds of science classes." So he's like, "We need to make you as marketable as possible." And so I thought, well, I'm gonna go take some geology classes, just something different. And my first geology class, Greg, I'm telling you, I fell in love. I fell in love with geology. And I'm like, to hell with biology. We're going to start again. I'm getting a degree in geology. And I was like, oh my God, I'd already been in school now, from when I started to when I finished. At this point, it's like 17 years. So like, racking up all this debt, So anyhow, I'm like, no, we're just going to get this degree in biology. But I'm really going to fill my schedule with as many geology classes as I could. So that's what I did. And so I fell in love with rocks, and I fell in love with the planet Earth is really what, and I just can't learn enough about this planet. I just want to know every single way that this planet works. And so my love for geology then propelled me, later in my career. I have 2 master's degrees in science, but they're both in earth science. They're in geology. So I've taken lots of field courses, had some great opportunities to travel with some awesome professors and learning things about different places in this country. And so kind of where all this is heading in terms of my passion, I have a passion for rocks and Earth's history. My husband had wanted to go out to Arizona. He loves to golf. He wanted to go out to Arizona. And in my ignorance, I thought all of Arizona looked like Phoenix. And so I was like, no, thank you. The saguaro are cool, but I'm not really down with all that heat and all that kind of stuff. And so he just really kind of kept after me. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do some research. So I started researching Arizona. I thought, well, this might actually, the north central part of Arizona, this is different. And so I planned a vacation for us out there, and we went and we did kind of this big sweeping tour around north central Arizona. And we fell in love with Arizona. We ended up buying a house out near Sedona. So, yeah. So in terms of my passion, my love for Earth's history and for rocks really is what propelled us to buy a house in Arizona, because the area that we're in near Sedona is you've got every single type of rock: igneous, sedimentary, metamorphic. There are volcanoes out there. You've got the Colorado Plateau. You've got rivers up in the north central part. Just tons of hiking. I just love to hike. That really is, I kind of feel like Sycamore. My kids are here. My grandkids are here. My parents, when they're not in Florida for the winter, they're in Huntley, so they're fairly close. So like, this is my heart home. This is my love home. But like, Sedona is like my soul home. This is where I need to go when I have to like rejuvenate myself. And by the way, I've been there 3 times this school year. I've been there 4 times, just trying to keep it all together. And so I go out there and we just hike, and we'll hike 6, 7, 8, 9 miles. just get out in that rock. And I'm telling you, when I know some people really love to be out in nature, but I mean, it's more than that for me, because I walk through the rock and I know how old the rock is, and we'll take trails, and I teach when we bring people out there, I teach them about the rock. And I can just be transported, back 250 million years to the time of Pangea, when this sediment was laid down that became this rock. And I just love it, Greg. So, and all of that came from that teacher coordinator who just asked me to broaden my science by taking a different class. And it all came from geology. So, yeah.
Little did you know that teacher coordinator had some dealings in Arizona, and he was backed over. I love that area. It is gorgeous. I have family out in Arizona. That state is crazy, because you do think it's all just Phoenix, and then you start looking around and you're like, oh, Tucson? Oh wait, Tempe? Oh wait, like, whoa, there's stuff going on here. And Sedona's a gorgeous area. Flagstaff, all that stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So that's pretty much where we go. We go Sedona and Prescott and Flagstaff, and Flagstaff in many respects reminds me really of northern Wisconsin, which is where my husband is from. A little bit different. The pine is different. You've got the big ponderosa pine trees out. And by the way, if you have never smelled a ponderosa pine, I mean, like, get your face up in that bark. Oh my gosh, you have to. If you guys run across a ponderosa pine tree, you got to become a tree sniffer, just like Mrs. Olson is. And anyhow, it's fabulous. It smells like vanilla and butterscotch. It's wonderful. So anyway, the first time I smelled a ponderosa pine was actually in Utah, and now it's ridiculous when we're out hiking. Where'd Olson go? Oh, she's off smelling trees. Okay, so anyway.
I mean, there was a segue teed up in my head. It's gone now. Now I'm just thinking about tree sniffers.
Yeah, treesniffers.com right here.
Don't type that. I think, and we already kind of talked a little bit about it before, but I love the recommendations. Like, my favorite part of the whole podcast, because as you said, free thinkers love to read, and I'm always. I got like 10 books that I already need to read, but I'm always looking for one to sort of jump the line and go into the next one. So I think often when we think about this, we think books, but it doesn't have to just be books. But if you have a recommendation, what would it be?
Yeah. Well, if I could recommend one album, it would be No Soul, No Strain by Wire Train. It is my absolute favorite album. So I would recommend that. In terms of books, so I don't read one book at a time. I typically read 3 or 4 books at a time. So it just really depends on what my mood is in terms of what I'm going for. So I'll be reading 3 or 4 things. So if you ask me, like, what's my favorite book ever, I can't give you that answer, because I read so many different things. I mean, I could be reading Rachel Maddow's Drift, which is about us moving to a military complex in this country. And at the same time, I'm reading Meacham's Soul of a Nation. And, I'm reading Tara Westover's Educated. I mean, just so it just depends. I would say recently, I really liked the book Educated by Tara Westover. I read that, was one of the books that I was reading last summer, because I was really feeling quite down in the summer in terms of what we had just been through with the spring and what we knew was coming up for the fall. And so that book really helped rejuvenate me over the summer, just in terms of resiliency and what some people will do to be educated. I mean, the things that they will overcome, including having to teach themselves in order to be educated. And it was a wonderful book. So, it's a good read. It's a pretty fast read, because you get into this woman's life. Have you read that book at all?
I have not, but I did read
it. It's a really, I mean, it's inspirational. When you get done, you're thinking, oh, let's put me in that classroom. I'm ready to go, kind of a book. So it was really refreshing to read that. I'm currently also reading a book called Stamped from the Beginning. So I don't want to say that I'm a woke person now, but, I've always felt, as a feminist, I've always felt for a long time that women have really gotten a raw deal here. And yeah, so, and I didn't necessarily extend that. It wasn't that I intentionally neglected things, but I was just kind of, just had this myopic kind of thing in terms of with women. So kind of the things that have transpired in terms of just what's gone on here in America have really kind of made me feel like I need to learn my history. I need to learn the history, the real history of this country. And so I've been reading a couple of books then related to that. And Stamped from the Beginning is a great book. The Warmth of Other Suns, about the largest migration of humans on our planet, was actually here in this country. The migration of Blacks from the South to the North because of Jim Crow laws. That also has been a really good book. Just, these are insightful books. They just make me think in ways that I hadn't thought of before. And so I enjoy reading those, but I can't turn down a geology underfoot or a roadside geology. If I run across it, I want to learn about, what's happening here in our country. And then anything Natalie Angier's, Bill Bryson, Carl Sagan, who are just awesome writers of science. So I love reading their stuff as well. But, hey, give me a Game of Thrones, I'm down for that too. And so anyway, there's just a lot of things. I mean, if you look at my collection of books, you'd be like, what is going on with this woman? Because there's just like everything there, So, I mean, I'm an atheist, but I have a Bible because I think it's important to read these things, So, anyhow, just I've got all kinds of different things that I read. So, Eastern philosophies and just it's all over the place, Greg. It's just it's chaos is what it is. So
I prefer a bookshelf that has variety on it, right? If you're like, oh, all you have is this one author, then like, there's a Murakami quote on one of my walls up there that says, if you only read what everyone else is reading, you can only think what everyone else is thinking. And
exactly.
Yeah, that's a big part of that.
Yeah. So there are some good books out there to really, yes, broaden your horizons. That's for sure. So yeah.
Awesome. That was the most books packed into a segment I've had so far. I appreciate
Sorry.
it. If someone couldn't find something out of all of that, then really, The next place I like to go is, again, I think oftentimes it's very easy, especially with our colleagues, for us to just sort of assume and like think like, oh, this person likes this, or this person does this type of thing. But I think all of us have surprising fandoms or activities or things that we're interested in that maybe are a little bit under the surface or that people would not assume. So do you have maybe either a surprising fandom or activity or something that we would never guess unless you told us?
Well, I do, but this is the Disney version of our PTSD. So I do have to keep this clean, right? So it's nothing dirty, people. Please don't even go there. Well, so things that I don't know. I don't think that anything really is surprising about me. I don't know. I used to play competitive softball.
Okay.
Maybe not like, I think Mark Holstein, doesn't he play like competitive softball? So I actually played on a traveling team. We traveled state to state and we played, you played in tournaments to win money. And I was a pitcher. I don't know if that surprises anybody or not. I'm a fairly competitive person. So there came to a point, my husband loves golf. I love softball, but I realized that, if I'm going to, softball is not an activity I can probably play for the rest of my life. And so I need to, if I want to spend time with my husband, I need to do golf. So anyhow, I was kind of switched over to golf. So I do love to golf. I love to watch golf. I love to play golf. And that's where you'll find me this summer. You'll find me out on the course, various courses, playing golf. So even traveling other places to play golf. So I love that. Of course, you know now that I love to hike. That's something I love to do. Read. It might surprise people to know that I'm kind of an introvert. I think a lot of people are a little surprised about that. So I'm lucky. My husband is an extrovert, so we're kind of the yin and yang. And so, where I would be content, well, let's, just stay home and just want to read. And he'll be like, no, we're going out, and then I'm always glad that I do. because I enjoy being around, our group of friends there. I have taken Ann Martinson out to Arizona with me, out to Sedona. So we went hiking. I don't know how many people know that. I love tattoos. And yeah, I have several myself. My problem is that now I would get another tattoo in a heartbeat. But my issues with skin cancer. So it's every time I have to go see my dermatologist every 3 months. And she's always taken biopsies of stuff. Luckily for me, she found my melanoma early. But so I'm afraid to get more tattoos because I'm afraid she's going to damage them. Now she's taken biopsies of them, and they are a pretty personal thing, so you don't want them to be ruined after they've been put on. Anyhow, I love bourbon. I love craft beer, reds, ambers, porters, stouts. These things, yes, bring me pleasure. And, I don't know what else in terms of what people would know about me. I have the language I told you about, educated sailor, all due respect to sailors. So whatever. I believe the F word is the most versatile word in the English language, and I'm not afraid to use it. And anyhow, oh boy, I feel like I'm just rolling on here, Greg. I am fiercely loyal. And I hope that people, actually, that's something I hope that people recognize about me. I think it's one of the reasons why, I in my work as the grievance chair for the union, I want people to know, and I hope that they understand that I will fight like hell for you, in regards to our contract. And, I'm fiercely loyal to people, and I'm fiercely loyal to this school and to the people who work here and my little science peeps. I'm telling you, these people, I've got their back. And I don't know if that's a surprise though. So anyhow.
No, I think I don't think you have to worry. I think the fierce loyalty comes through. Even when I was a young teacher here, the rabble rouser that I am, the few times that I had to deal with you with grievance, you'd be like, "No, you're right, they're wrong." I'm like, "All right, Pam made me feel better. All right." Nope, they're not pulling that crap on you. So it was always very appreciated. As you were listing things off, it was just more and more things where I'm like, yep, that's why we get along. I do find myself golfing as much as possible. Obviously the hiking stuff, love it. Reading, all that fun stuff. Grew up with people who do microbrews and beers and stuff. And although I shouldn't talk about it, I have had instance to run a distillery before. And gotta make that ethanol so you can make your vanilla extract. So
yes.
I dig it. I think those are all awesome things, and I'm glad you shared those with us. So this next one's a tough one, and I think I was super glad you chose it, but I always wonder, it's such a tough one because I'm asking for if there's only one thing you'd change in the world, right? One thing, and that's a huge ask, but what would that thing be, and why?
Well, the one thing I would change is that women would be in charge.
Fair enough. Moving on.
Because men have been in charge now for a couple thousand years, and really all you've done is effed up what we have going on. So I want women to be in charge because it can't get any worse than it is right now.
That's awesome. Totally. Again, I was raised by my mother. I totally get where that's coming from. I believe me, dudes suck. But there's a Vonnegut book, and yes, I always have to get Vonnegut into these somehow, called Bluebeard, and one of the things, his whole thing is, his final reveal of his painting is, now it's the women's turn, because all men have done is cause war, cause destruction, cause all these horrible things.
Yes.
So I take no offense to that. I wholly agree.
All right. Well, I don't care if anybody does take offense. I still think it should happen.
Fair enough. Fair enough. The last one I'd like to ask, and again, just want to thank you for your time. This has been great. I hope you've enjoyed our conversation, because I sure as heck have. But what's the thing that you're most proud of?
So the thing that I'm most proud of, Greg, and I asked you to ask me that. But this is part and parcel to who I am. I mean, this goes along there isn't me, there's we. And what I'm most proud of, what I mean by that, is my marriage. So when I look at, all 55 years of my life, I have accomplished some things that I'm pretty proud of. So, the fact that I went back to school after I had my children, that I was able to get my master's degrees in earth science, and the work that was entailed with that in terms of being away from home in order to get those degrees. So that, those were major sacrifices, not just for me, but for my family as well. But my husband and I have been married for 36 years. We just celebrated our 36th wedding anniversary. Yeah. And he is my high school sweetheart. I actually met him my very first day of school when I was a freshman. I hated his guts. He didn't like me either. But, things changed, right? And so a little bit later on our high school careers, we started dating, and we've been together ever since. And I just think that, I got married when I was pretty young. I was only 19 when I got married. And he was young too. He was 21. And so I've looked at, how I have changed over that course of time. I mean, when you're 19, you don't know anything really. And I'm sure that when he got married to me, he never thought this woman is going to become a free thinker and a feminist, and I'm sure that was not on his horizon at all. Just, I'm pretty, consider myself to be a pretty strong woman. And if you're going to have a person like that in a relationship, you need to have then a strong partner, right, who can balance that. And he most definitely is. And I just can't even, none of what I have been able to accomplish would even have happened without his support and his love and his encouragement. He's my biggest fan. There have been times when I've wanted just to quit because it was hard, and he's just kicked my ass and told me I wasn't quitting. And, it's just, he just I feel so deeply for this man. Still after 36 years, I'm still wildly in love with this man. And so I'm just super, super proud of the relationship that he and I have. And it really is my fervent hope, really is, that everybody can experience what I experience with this person who is my partner in every sense of the word. And if you came to me and just said, Pam, you and your husband are going to just go to Sedona and it's just going to be the two of you forever and nobody else will ever be there, I'd be like, fine, when am I leaving? And I would have no problems with it at all. So that is really, when I think about myself, it really is, it's he and I. And I'm just so grateful for him. And it just kind of feels like, I don't know, I don't know if this kind of has gone someplace else, but really, this is the biggest thing, the best thing that I've ever done in my life is the relationship that I have with this man. And I hope that everybody has a chance to experience that kind of relationship in their lives, because it sure is a hell of a ride when you have a partner like that with you.
Damn, we didn't set this out to have such a perfect come full circle, because I think that comes back to advocate for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Everyone to have the same amount of that love and adoration as you do. But I mean, us free thinkers, we just make those connections between things, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I just want to thank you again this is an awesome conversation, and for taking some time to be here to talk from a social distance, and for sharing all that you did with us.
Thank you, Greg. And thank you so much to you and the entire team. You guys have really had our backs this year in terms of our social, emotional health. And I just really appreciate everything that you guys have done to make this year a little bit easier for us. So thank you.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.